everyone. Today we have a very special program. We're going to talk with my best friends, and this program is going to be outrageous, very interesting for you, I believe, because everybody's talking about culture shock, and we have plenty of videos how Ukrainian people or Russian people immigrate to the US, and we investigate a lot about their style of living and many other interesting, outrageous stuff. But what about Americans living in Ukraine? So if you would like to know more about culture shock when people immigrate from another country here to Ukraine, please keep watching us. So today we're going to talk with my best friend Laura Buchanan, and very gifted teacher from God, and her spouse Mark Buchanan. So please welcome them. I dedicated a short poem for Laura because I love her from depths of my heart. So I'll try to tell you just a couple of rhymes. So you will just see in a very short way some characters and characteristics of traits of Laura. Laura is like a spinning top. She won't waste time just to shop. She plans and organizes. Around her, people are contagious, and they are energizers. So I shouldn't say that she's bossy, but she likes to keep things under control. So I will call her inborn leader after all. So this in short about my friend Laura. So I would like to ask them a couple of questions because they've been living in Ukraine for
13 years.
For 13 years. Okay. I can imagine that they went through all these 4 stages of culture shock. We've been talking with you the previous time and continue discussing. So my first question would be, do you remember when you came back from America the second time to Ukraine, what actually distraught you a lot or irritated you?
Well, in the Bazaar, it's like people in the Bazaar are there to, I think, sell items. And when visitors come to the Bazaar, they're there to buy items. And it's like the sellers, they look at you and they ask, what do you want? Like, why are you here? Why are you making me get off my phone and do something for you? That's what it seemed like. And, after years of being here, we kind of understand why. It's just the mindset. At first, it really annoyed us. It's like, yeah, I'm here to buy your product. You have potatoes. Maybe I want salt, so I'm standing here talking to you. No, I want potatoes.
Yeah, I do agree. It's kind of ethics. It's kind of ethics, and it's like business ethics. And you have totally different attitude in the US.
Yeah, but it's also customer service.
Yeah, customer service.
Because this person may come back to us and spend more money later. Don't I want to treat him really nice? Him or her?
Yeah.
Want to treat him nice. Come back.
But we, after moving here, one of the things that we started to do was to watch historical programs, some that were recommended by my English students, some that we found on the internet, because we wanted to understand more of the culture. And when you want to understand about the culture, you have to understand the history. So when we looked back at the Soviet Union, it was like everybody had to be the same, you take it or you leave it. So that explains a lot of the attitudes when it comes to buying and selling. And of course, in our country, the customer service is really important about having choices. So we would go up and we expect people to say, hey, they're going to buy my product, I want them to come back. And so when we were met with this different culture, it was very shocking. The first place we went to in the Bazaar, I was going to buy hangers. And I practiced the word, and I was so nervous. And we went to this lady, and she was like, what? And I was like, if you can imagine me being afraid, I was like, dva. I can't remember the word now for hanger. And I wanted 20, so she slapped down 2. And I'm like, oh, I made a mistake, okay.
So you needed вешалка.
Вешалка.
For clothes, right?
Yeah. So then I said dasit, and then I said dvanat, and finally, she was so upset with me, it was like, okay, we're just buying it, we're going to go somewhere else. Because I was kind of afraid of her. She was just so... Yeah.
It wasn't just the attitude from her, it was also the inability with language.
Yeah.
So, in my head still, the numbers kind of get mixed up. I know what's what, it's just that it comes out of my head kind of not correct all the time.
And when we moved here, we only, like I knew maybe 1,000 words, maybe a little bit more, and he knew less, but still, You know, everybody's
5.
talking to you like they expect you to understand, and we're just like, nervous, you know.
So did you have a language barrier when you moved here?
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing
There
is,
still is.
yeah.
Much less, but there's still a barrier.
So you do suggest if people immigrate to another country, they definitely should be introduced to the culture and history and language beforehand, right?
Yeah,
In
it
advance.
helps.
Yeah, it
but-
helps a lot.
But also, you have to understand that people everywhere, in every culture, are just not, they're getting it wrong. Both language, it's not just in oneself, it's the other people that are doing it wrong also. So it's like, we have to understand everybody has faults, and we have to give them a little bit of leeway. We have to give them a little bit of grace.
Yeah.
Okay.
But one of the things for us, though, is when we moved here, we were already grandparents. You know, so we
Yeah.
were close to 50 years old when we moved here. You know, so having to learn first Russian, and then after we were here 2 or 3 years, everything started to change to Ukrainian. So now we have to learn Russian and Ukrainian, and the alphabet is very different, the sounds are very different. It's not like we went into Spanish with the same letters. You know, so it was a little bit more complicated. So it was difficult.
About twisting Russian and Ukrainian, I remember at the time, I don't know if you remember, then we had, some classes Laura had with Lena, and then she came to me and said, you know, I learned the word in Russian, zirka. It's like, Laura, you know, I will upset you, it's Ukrainian. Because in Russian it's like zvezda. So basically we are like bilingual here, so
Yeah.
it's the specific of our culture,
Yeah.
yes. And my next question is that, do you believe that there is a saying that the way to the person's heart lies through his or her language and culture? Do you believe it? That you need to learn the language, and if you want to touch the person a lot, so you need to speak in his or her language?
In America, we have this idiom that says, for a woman, the way to her husband's heart is through food.
Through his stomach.
Through his stomach.
Okay.
So yeah, the idea, I think it probably shows up in every culture, that there's like secret ways of getting in with any culture. And I believe you have to know the culture, the history, and a little bit of the language, but also don't be afraid to make errors. Because everyone does.
Yeah.
Even native speakers do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He laughs at me all the time because I speak English incorrectly sometimes, and I'm an English teacher. But I think, you know, when we were in America, we were in Sacramento, and 90% of our immigrants were post-Soviet Union. So when we would speak Russian to somebody there, it meant a lot to them. You know, when we came here, there were some people who were impressed when we could speak, but other people, it was like they expected it, they demanded it of us. And sometimes we would get people who were really focused on understanding us, and those are the people that we really were able to communicate. Let's forget about being perfect, let's just understand each other. But then we also ran into some people who expected perfection. It's like they could not understand us unless we spoke perfect, you know, and it caused, of course, a conflict. They didn't understand us, we didn't understand them, you know. So I think when you're working with foreigners, or when you learn a foreign language, you have to understand that there are going to be mistakes, you know, that you need to step back and look at the context. Can I understand the other person? And for Americans, that's what's most important. I don't care if you make a lot of mistakes, I just want to understand you. So talk to me. Don't sit there and wait 10 minutes to give me a perfect sentence, you know, just talk to me.
Exactly. That's really cool. I really appreciate you for highlighting this point. It will be really valuable for our students. Yeah, I would like to ask, what was the most difficult to adjust to our culture, and still is difficult?
Collective versus individualism, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, collectivism, you know, and a lot of people think you watch our movies, you know, and so you know our culture, but the movies are not even close to our culture, our real culture. But your culture is very collective, you know, of course, from the Soviet Union, you all do everything together, whereas we're very individualistic, and it comes across in how we choose things. Like we were looking for tile for our bathroom, and we went to a tile store, and the guy kept trying to tell me what I wanted in my own bathroom, and I was like, no, that's not what I want, you know. And because of that collectivism, you know, it's like he felt like he had a right to speak into my life, whereas in our culture, we don't give advice unless somebody asks us or we think they're opening up the topic for us, and then we're very careful about giving advice. Here, well, you all know the babushka on the tramway is going to give you advice about everything in your life. I sneezed one time and I had 5 babushkas telling me what I needed to do for my cold, and they talked and talked and talked, and finally I said, it's allergies.
Allergy. Okay.
And Sala was the answer for everything. You know, so there's some of those things, you know, our body spacing. You know, like I was in Metro one time and I probably had 3 to 4 meters around me of nothing. And a lady still walked by and ran into me. You know, and my first instinct was that I was angry. It was like, why would she run into me? Why is she in my space? You know, but then I thought maybe she needs some touch or something. Maybe she needs a hug. Maybe I should go ask her, do you need a hug, you know? But I didn't know how to do that. But some of that body spacing is definitely, now with the coronavirus and all the social distancing,
Yeah.
Oh, that's
we
good.
are comfortable.
Okay.
2 meters, baby.
Step back.
Okay.
So some of those things about the culture, I think, you know? Yeah.
And maybe the last but not the least important is that what pieces of advice would you give to the foreigners who are about or who are going to immigrate to Ukraine, particularly to Ukraine?
First thing is, by law, it's the police's job to interpret, to find an interpreter for you if they stop you on the road.
Okay, okay.
That's
yeah,
a lesson I
we had
learned.
this situation, I remember. Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I think some of it is learn history as much as possible. And the other thing is if you're younger, you know, and try to learn some of the language, especially the important things. The very first visit when we came in 2001, we got stuck in an elevator. And I knew about 100 words, and most of them were slon, abejana, sabaka. And
Animals, right?
and being stuck in that elevator, I realized I needed to learn help, call a repairman. You know, so think about the important words. With my English students, one of the things that we talked about a lot was medical, because what if you go somewhere and you get hurt? Know those medical words.
Health issues.
Location words and direction words, and then of course restaurant and tourism kind of words. But medical was extremely important. And I'll tell you a story. One of my students, he took his family, I believe it was to Slovakia, and they were skiing, and his daughter, teenage daughter, fell and broke her collarbone. And so they ended up in the hospital, and they were able to use English as a common language. And because of the classes that I had with him, and actually I had some with her as well, they were able to communicate effectively with the doctors there.
So actually
Yeah.
it saved their life,
Yeah.
right? And it helped them to recover sooner because they knew this lexicology.
I
Yes.
think
So wait a minute, the story of the elevator, the end of the result is one of our friends that was in the elevator with us yelled to the person outside that there was a pregnant woman inside the elevator. So they got busy and they called the people and they came and opened the doors, and so learn how to say there's a pregnant woman in the elevator if you ever get caught.
And what was funny is when we came off, everybody was looking us up and down, and we just assumed it was because we were Americans, but
Yeah.
they were looking for the pregnant woman, yeah. I think one other thing that might be good is just when you go to visit another country, keep an open mind. Understand that just because a culture is different doesn't mean it's bad. You know, here in Ukraine, you guys do stuff on the negative side. And I don't mean negative as in bad, but you say, 14 bez 10, whereas we say it's 10 till 2.
Exactly.
You say, I have no objections to working with you. We say, I want to work with you. So there's just those differences, and it's not that one is better than the other, they're just different. And to understand those differences, that's the acceptance. You know, working through the whole process and having acceptance. But it can be very frustrating when somebody comes out and somebody came out and started yelling at Mark the other day, just rah, 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 and he was like, I don't understand you, and they're looking at you like you're stupid. And it's like, stop and think about this. If you're speaking to me and I don't understand you, you know, maybe it's a different situation. But some of those things are kind of frustrating for us because, you know, everybody assumes, well, that we've been here 13 years, we understand the language completely, both languages, and that we understand the culture completely. And we could live here another 20 years and not understand everything. Yeah.
Because you were not born here, and as we mentioned before, they came to Ukraine at the age of 50s, you know, so not 15, but 50s. But for us, it's a very good example. I do appreciate you highlighted these points very much. First of all, I would like to use this opportunity to tell, because I'm sure your sisters, your family are going to watch that. So you have perfect, precious sister, and I do appreciate her. She is here, not with you there, because she can do here more than there in the US. And, you know, God bless such people for what they are doing. We will see next, actually, what they could do here in the Ukrainian village, famous place where Stepan Rudansky lived previously. It's very, very famous location in Ukraine. I'm not sure you all knew this before. So welcome to come to the village and make your personal research. Homutinci, yes. It's not far away from Vinica. And watch us next, and we would like to tell you more that Laura and I, we run a very special school named Polyglot, and we are publishing lots of books about culture. You can find the link after the video, and you know, welcome to our school, and we'll try to teach you the language the best way which is possible. And watch our next programs, because we're still staying with Americans, but we'll speak more about immigrating to the US.